Imagine a man whose very word could ignite wars, whose smile could elevate fortunes, whose frown could condemn. A king defined by strength, charisma, and absolute command. Now shatter that image. Picture the same man, consumed by a singular burning obsession, a male heir. An obsession so potent, so terrifying, that it would drive him to commit the unthinkable, to violate the most sacred of vows, to spill royal blood, to send two queens, women who once held his heart, to the executioner's block for the ultimate betrayal, failing to give him a son. This is the chilling, unvarnished story of King Henry VIII. Not the romanticized figure of history, but the grotesque tyrant whose terrifying demand for an heir stained the very crown of England with the blood of his wives. Prepare to witness the dark heart of power, where love turned to obsession and obsession turned to murder. This is the horrifying true cost of a king's desperate desire. If you're ready to uncover the darkest secrets of the Tudor court, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and join our community of history explorers right now. You won't want to miss a single chilling detail. He began as England's Golden Prince, a veritable paragon of Renaissance kingship, handsome, intelligent, athletic, a formidable jouster, a skilled musician, a generous patron of the arts, and, crucially, a devout Catholic. When he ascended the throne in 1509, at just 17, England rejoiced, celebrating the dawn of a new, glorious age. His first marriage, to the devout, intelligent, and strong-willed Catherine of Aragon, widow of his elder brother Arthur, seemed not just politically astute, but divinely blessed. For years, their union was strong, outwardly harmonious, and fruitful, in everything but the one thing that truly mattered to a Tudor king, a surviving male heir. 5 pregnancies, a heartbreaking parade of miscarriages, stillbirths, and infant deaths. Only one child, the future Queen Mary I, survived childhood. But for Henry, a single daughter was simply not enough. The Tudor dynasty was relatively new, its legitimacy still fragile after the Wars of the Roses. He believed, with an almost religious fervor, that God demanded a son, a male heir to secure his lineage and the stability of his realm. This need, subtle at first, began to fester. A seed of fear, planted deep within the heart of a proud, increasingly insecure king, began to consume him. He began to whisper about the biblical passage from Leviticus. If a man shall take his brother's wife, it is an unclean thing. They shall be childless. This chilling scripture became his personal obsession, a divine justification for what he was about to unleash. By the late 1520s, that festering fear had mutated into terrifying desperation. Catherine, now in her 40s, was undeniably past childbearing age. Henry became absolutely convinced his marriage was cursed, forbidden by God, a sin for which his lack of a male heir was divine punishment. He desperately sought an annulment from the Pope, Clement VII, hoping to invalidate his first marriage and find a new queen. But Catherine, a proud Spanish princess, daughter of Ferdinand and Isabella, refused to yield. She stood firm, unwavering, her dignity unyielding, declaring herself the king's true wife before God. This was not merely a wife refusing a husband. This was a queen, steeped in royal blood, defying the most powerful king in Europe, backed by the Holy Roman Emperor, her nephew, Charles V. It was an unprecedented act of royal will, a clash of titans that would reshape a continent. While this agonizing legal battle raged for years, consuming Europe's most powerful courts and dragging England into a diplomatic quagmire, another figure emerged from the shimmering shadows of the royal court: Anne Boleyn. She was not conventionally beautiful by the standards of the day, but she was sharp, quick-witted, captivating, and daring. Crucially, she refused to be merely a mistress, unlike her sister Mary. She demanded a crown. she ignited a singular, all-consuming flame within Henry, a passion so intense it would compel him to consume his first marriage, tear England from the centuries-old embrace of Rome, and shatter the very foundations of the Catholic Church in his realm. The act of supremacy, the dissolution of the monasteries, all for her, and for the sake of an heir. The king's great matter wasn't just about a son. It was about Henry's absolute will, his unshakable conviction that God, the Pope, or indeed anyone, should not and could not deny him what he desired. A king's will, unbound, was about to unleash a terrifying. Anne Boleyn, with her sharp intellect, her undeniable charisma, and her perceived progressive views, offered Henry a tantalizing promise: a new queen, a fresh start, and the son he so desperately craved. He defied the Pope, broke with Rome, and shattered centuries of tradition to make her his queen. England was plunged into religious upheaval, its monasteries dissolved, its ancient laws rewritten, all for her, and ostensibly for the sake of an heir. Anne delivered, but not the son Henry demanded. In 1533, she gave birth to a daughter, Elizabeth, who would one day become England's greatest queen. But for Henry, a daughter, however brilliant, was a bitter disappointment. Then came the miscarriages, more failed pregnancies. The terrifying ticking clock of the Tudor dynasty echoed relentlessly in the empty nurseries of the royal palaces. The adoration Henry once showered on Anne began to curdle into suspicion, then resentment, then profound, terrifying paranoia. His monstrous, terrifying pattern was already taking shape. Immense, all-consuming love, followed by desperate, furious disappointment, then ruthless, calculated elimination. Anne's sharp intelligence, once her greatest allure, now became a perceived threat. Her independent spirit, once so captivating, now seemed a challenge to his absolute authority. Her failure to produce a male heir transformed her from queen to obstacle, from beloved wife to a dangerous, expendable commodity. The king, who had defied the entire world for her, now began to see her as disposable. The pressure on Anne was immense, suffocating. She knew the fate of her predecessor, Catherine of Aragon, albeit a less bloody one. But the shadow of the axe already loomed, unseen but felt, a chilling promise of the king's escalating desperation. Court factions, sensing her vulnerability, began to gather like vultures. The fall of Anne Boleyn was shockingly swift, a terrifying testament to how absolute power, fueled by paranoia, can twist justice into a grotesque parody. In May 1536, barely 3 years after her coronation, the charges exploded like a thunderclap across England. Treason, adultery, and the unspeakable accusation of incest with her own brother, George Boleyn. And chillingly, witchcraft. Think of it, the Queen of England, accused of witchcraft for failing to bear a son, for bewitching the king into an unholy union. It was an absurdity, a desperate fabrication, but terrifyingly effective. The court, once fawning and eager to please Anne, turned against her with horrifying speed. There was no real evidence, only rumor, fear of Henry's wrath, and his desperate, irrational need to be rid of her. The trials were a sham, a macabre ballet of injustice, designed not to seek truth, but to provide a veneer of legality for a predetermined outcome. Anne, once so quick-witted and defiant, found herself trapped in a legalistic nightmare, betrayed by those she thought were her friends, abandoned by a king she had loved. She was condemned, not by justice, but by Henry's insatiable desire for another chance at a son, and by the ruthless ambition of those at court who feared his escalating wrath more than they valued truth. The scaffold was already being prepared, a chilling testament to the king's unyielding will. On May 19, 1536, Anne Boleyn walked with impossible dignity to her death at the Tower of London. A hushed, terrified crowd gathered, not to mourn, but to witness a spectacle of royal power. Her execution was, ironically, a rare mercy for an English noble. She was beheaded by a master swordsman from Calais, a swift, clean death rather than the agonizing axe. She carried herself with regal composure, delivering a final, poignant speech that maintained her innocence and expressed loyalty to the king. But the true horror wasn't just in the blade. It was in the chilling precedent set. A Queen of England, legally executed for political convenience and dynastic ambition. Her body barely cold on the scaffold, Henry VIII, with breathtaking haste, married Jane Seymour, a woman whose quiet demeanor, submissive nature, and willingness to bear sons offered a stark contrast to Anne's fiery spirit. The cycle had begun. The king's monstrous, unyielding demand for a male heir had now claimed its first queen by execution. The message was clear, brutal, and terrifying. No one was safe from the king's absolute will. The crown had tasted royal blood and would taste it again. Jane Seymour finally delivered Henry's longed-for male heir, Prince Edward, in 1537. The kingdom rejoiced, bells rang, bonfires blazed. The Tudor dynasty finally had its male future secured. Jane was hailed as the queen who achieved the impossible, but the kingdom's joy and Henry's own profound happiness was tragically short-lived. Jane died barely 2 weeks after childbirth, likely from puerperal fever, a devastating complication of the era. Henry mourned her deeply, genuinely. She was, to him, the true wife who gave him his son. He would later be buried beside her. But even this profound grief couldn't extinguish his consuming obsession. The need for an additional male heir, for a legitimate spare to secure the fragile succession, lingered like a shadow. And so, the terrifying pattern of the king's marriages continued, driven by dynastic desperation, by a deepening paranoia about the fragility of his line, and by the relentless march of time. His next venture into matrimony was a diplomatic disaster that quickly became a personal catastrophe. Anne of Cleves, his fourth wife, a German princess, was quickly discarded through annulment. Henry found her physically unattractive, unsuited to his volatile personality, leading to perhaps the least bloody but most embarrassing end to a royal marriage. But the most tragic and chilling echo of Anne Boleyn's fate awaited his fifth wife, the young, vivacious, and recklessly naive Catherine Howard. She brought a fleeting burst of passion and youthful exuberance to the aging king, but her past and her continued indiscretions quickly caught up to her. Whispers of premarital affairs and alleged adultery after marriage reached Henry's increasingly paranoid ears. The same consuming fear, the same ruthless judgment that condemned Anne Boleyn, resurfaced with terrifying vengeance. Catherine Howard, like her ill-fated cousin Anne, was accused of treason for betraying the king's bed. The outcome was chillingly familiar, a macabre replay of history. In 1542, Catherine Howard walked to the same scaffold as Anne Boleyn, another tragic victim of Henry's escalating insecurity and his insatiable, ruthless pursuit of purity in his line. The terrifying pattern was now complete. 2 wives executed, a chilling precedent firmly set, the crown's demand for absolute control etched in blood. His sixth and final wife, Catherine Parr, proved to be the unlikely survivor. She navigated the treacherous waters of Henry's volatile court with remarkable intelligence, caution, and a deep, quiet resilience, becoming a loving stepmother to his children and a companion in his declining, agonizing final years. She provided stability, not sons, surviving where others had tragically fallen. But the legacy of fear Henry had cultivated remained. The brutal executions of Anne Boleyn and Catherine Howard sent a terrifying, undeniable message through the court and across Europe. No one, not even a queen, was safe from the king's wrath, especially those who failed his singular, consuming demand for dynastic security. His reign was a masterclass in absolute power, but also a chilling testament to its ultimate destructive cost. The path he paved with blood and broken vows would forever define the Tudor dynasty, leaving behind a haunting question for the ages. How far would you go for a throne and a son? We hope this journey through the dark heart of Henry VIII's reign has revealed the terrifying obsession that truly defined him. His story is a chilling reminder of the destructive power of unchecked ambition and the ultimate brutal price paid when a king demands the impossible. If this tale of royal obsession and tragic fates left you questioning everything, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history's most disturbing true stories. What other royal secrets should we uncover next? Leave your darkest thoughts, your most intriguing theories, and your questions in the comments below. We're eager to unravel more mysteries with you. Until next time, fellow explorers of history's hidden truths, beware the crown and the desires of those who wear it.